Good evening. Welcome. Good to be with you. I'd like to invite each of you to join our February retreat, February 2nd through the 4th. I do hope you can be there. Yes. I'd like to start this evening with shutting down the eyes and opening our hearts and beginning to connect with this moment, the immensity of this moment, the silence of this moment. The gentle spaciousness of this moment. Connecting to the I that is awake. And so we are breathing and we are feeling. Together we are opening. Opening to this mysterious realm of presence. Presence, which is the very eyes, the ears of this universe. And so I invite you to notice, what do these eyes see? When you experience yourself fully and completely in the here and now. Can you hear the immensity of your being? Now, some of you may hear or see all kinds of thoughts moving through your consciousness, and that's part of being human. But in this space of satsang, I'm going to invite you into something much deeper. A silent immensity of your awake, aware essence. And this is not something you need to grasp at, but it is something that you can choose. We can choose to continue to unconsciously flow with the mind and its story, its dance, its programming. Or we can choose to be awake and aware to the direct experience in the here and now of your most essential nature. And so as you come into contact and you feel and experience your essential nature, you may notice expansiveness, a feeling of having no walls or boundaries. An immense, timeless, and eternal peace, spaciousness, stillness. And as we come into contact with the heart, as we open and include the heart, you may notice this essence that you are. This immense flow of radiant love. And inclusivity. And I invite you really to notice, like, what is it like as I drop down into the space of the heart? What happens in my experience as I include the heart, or as I wake up to this heart that I am? And of course, you can just notice and see, is there any way your heart is closed or holding or resisting? Sometimes we hold emotional pain in a way that veils our heart. And in this moment, coming to the recognition, oh, I don't have to do that. My heart can be open. My heart is naturally radiant and loving. We don't have to try to love. As you experience your heart directly, may come to the realization, oh, this heart is love. This beautiful heart is love. So the space of the mind is spacious and open. The heart is loving. And of course, let's include the hara, the abdomen. And again, just noticing in a human way. Am I clenching or resisting or fighting? Can I choose to fully open? The hara, the lower belly, the pelvis and the hips. And even perhaps gently growing some roots down out of the hara. Merging into the quiet strength of the earth. Letting go of any sense of individuality and letting go into the very ground of being. And so we're breathing in and breathing out and just noticing how our experience has grown, expanded. How we've become much more luminous and radiant. You may even feel as if your consciousness, your sense of self, is being gobbled up by this immensity, by this ground. The ground. And so the more we open together, begin to notice I am the peace. I am this love. I am this love. I am this peace. I am the ground. And so, if you like, you can open your eyes and join me here in Satsang. If you like, you can stay with your experience. If you like, you can do both. And the further we walk on this path, the more non-dual our experience becomes. Now, in the beginning, we open to peace. And in the end, we realize our nature is peace. Our nature is peace. In the beginning, we open to love. And in the end, we realize I am love. That love is all. That love is all. All is love. All is God. And this is very difficult to experience, to realize when we are identified with an aspect of our mind, an aspect of our consciousness that feels separate, that feels divided, that feels victimized by life. Well, I taught this class the other day, and afterwards I walked away and I was really reflecting, and I had this sense almost everyone, not everyone, but almost everyone, missed the point. And as a spiritual teacher, this is a common thing, because basically we're inviting individuals out of one world into another world. And often people, they don't want to leave the world they're in. They're a little bit anxious and nervous about stepping into this new world. Or sometimes they try to carry all of the things from the old world into the new world. And it just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit. And so I spent a little time this weekend really reflecting, is there a way I can make this teaching more precise or direct? I started to come up with these tenets, and I realized like the first tenet that I always come back to is that we have to want to be free. First and foremost, we have to be free. We have to want to know the truth above and beyond everything else in our life. And I've heard this, this teaching that I'm offering today, I've heard it myself, from many other teachers. And we have to love the truth for the sake of truth, or we have to love God first. We have to want to be free more than anything else. And it's like 99% of people, they miss this. This is basic, essential teaching. If you want to wake up, if you want to be enlightened, if you want to step into another world, you have to love this mystery, this other world, above everything else. And, in a sense, I'm going to say something a little silly, but like with modern day dating, a lot of people, in modern day relationships, they're not so honest. They're on the dating apps or Tinder, whatever it is. And they're speaking to one person, like flirting with them, chatting them up. Like you're the only person. But meanwhile, they might be chatting, 4 people up or 6 people up, all kinds of other people. And it's like, oh, I want to try this and this and this. And I want to kind of hold on to each of them a little bit and just see which one shakes out to be the best of the options. And if we want to be free, we can't hold on to a lot of untruths. We can't hold on to a lot of things that keep us not free, that keep us enmeshed, that keep us entangled with the world. If we want to be free, we cannot say, but I'm also going to be an addict. I'm also going to be an addict. I'm still going to do this thing. Well, if we're still doing this thing, like I heard this hilarious joke in the locker room at jiu-jitsu. And so we're all hanging out, doing our thing. And I was stepping into the shower, and one of the guys said, it was Wednesday. So I think that's day 3. He said, I've been sober for 3 days. It's like, yeah, that's a good start. That's a good start. But that was the joke. It's like, I've been sober for 3 days. But how about Friday night? Like Friday night, when Friday night rolls around, are we going to continue to value clarity of mind? Or are we going to be like, I'll just have a drink. I'll just have a drink. And this is the thing with spiritual freedom. If you want to be awake, truly awake in an abiding way, you have to value it above all else. You can't say like, I want to be free and I'm going to be a little bit manipulative with mom or dad or sister, brother, or partner, or boyfriend, girlfriend. I'm going to lie to myself a little bit. I'm going to lie to others a little bit. Like all those little, like, we can't do that if we want to be free. We have to love the truth and bow before the truth, first and foremost. First and foremost. And of course, like I understand, like this is a tall order. A tall order to say, I'm choosing to live for my highest nature all the time. But the ego gets almost all of its power from playing this game of time, of negotiating. Well, maybe just a little bit of this, and a little bit of that, and it won't really hurt anyone, and they won't really know. And like that's where the ego gets its wiggle room. Where it gets its wiggle room. And in its wiggle room, it just continues to grow and grow and grow. You know, my little girl, she likes to play games. Like, you know, like we play like, you know, any kind of game. Just let's say we play the game of Clue, like a board game, or we play Yahtzee or something, you know, I'm still trying to figure out that one. Well, you know, one of these roll the dice games. And so then she'll roll the dice and she'll get these dice and it won't be a very good score. And so she like starts turning one over. It's just like to get a better score. We're like, hey, sweetie, that's not how you play. Like, that's not how the game works. And she's like, no, like I just this one time, Dad. And you know, like her mom is like a big pushover. And so her mom lets her get away with stuff. And I'm like, no, like let's not let her do that because we're teaching her that it's okay to cheat, you know, to cheat the system. And you know, parents can tolerate, you know, with their kids, you know, cheating just to get some more points. But you know, friends won't tolerate that. Like no one wants to play with somebody's cheating. No one wants to play with someone who can't lose. In the realm of spirituality, if we want to live in a space of freedom. And so just so we're clear, a space of freedom means I live beyond my egoic nature. I'm free of my egoic nature, a nature that is attached to pleasurable outcomes and that runs away from uncomfortable outcomes. So if we want to be free of that mechanism, we can't just let that mechanism continue to run. We can't continue to drink, you know, how they say, drink the Kool-Aid from the ego. Like it keeps us asleep. We want to drink the Kool-Aid of truth, of honesty, of open-heartedness, of a fearless willingness to be with what is, to be with our experience directly, to not turn away. And so in order to really follow this teaching, we have to be willing to take total responsibility for ourselves, for our lives. We can't be free and be a victim simultaneously. You can be free and hurting. You can be free and experience pain. You could be free and really uncomfortable. Like a lot of times people think spiritual freedom or enlightenment is just floating away on a bliss cloud where you never experience anything that hurts again. that's not that's not freedom. That's called, a really good experience, a really good day, really good mind state. Freedom is a perspective. It's beyond mind states. It's beyond feelings. And again, it requires that we take responsibility. Like the Buddha isn't saying, I'm free and I'm addicted to alcohol or addicted to cake or whatever our poison is. The Buddha says, I am free. And if he's choosing to eat cake from a place of truth, yeah, sure, he can get a piece of cake. But he's not addicted to it. Not addicted to it. And if someone harms the Buddha, which many people did, he can choose to be triggered. He can choose to be a victim, or he can choose to see clearly that the people who are harming me are suffering. They're confused. They're not in their highest truth. The Buddha didn't go around blaming the world. He saw the world for what it was, for what it is. He saw that the world was filled with a lot of confused people. That's a real polite way of putting it. There's a lot of confused people. Like I had to go down to the gas station today and fill up a little gas tank for my snowblower. And like we had a massive snowstorm here in Colorado today, and if you live in Colorado without four-wheel drive, it's like it doesn't even make sense. I'm like, I don't even know what you're doing here if you don't have four-wheel drive. But there were some people, pulling up in the gas station in a two-wheel drive car, and there's a tremendous amount of snow, and the guy just like had it floored, like he just had his pedal all the way down, and his tires were just like ripping, spinning. But he was slowly making some progress, up the little hill to the gas station, and I thought, like, my God, like if your tires catch pavement, if they stop peeling out, he's just gonna smash into me, my car, the gas pump. It's gonna be a disaster. But like you see, people who are really confused. You just spend a little bit of time just like walking around in reality. You see, God, there's people who are just acting like lunatics, being totally unsafe or totally entitled, or there are other people just like racing around. And I was like, guys, it just snowed, a foot of heavy snow, and like the plows haven't come yet, and people are just racing, in that rushing mind state because they want to get to this ski mountain. It's like you might not make it there. Like when we're living in the confusion, when we live in the delusion of our mind, it's a very dangerous way to live. And most people, they don't even know it. They have no recognition of how crazy they are. As we wake up, there's this funny thing, like a funny cosmic joke where we realize, oh my God, I have been so crazy for so much of my life. I have caused so much pain and suffering. I've been so lost in my mind. I've been so judgmental. I've had so much hatred. I kept going back to poison and drinking poison because I thought it would, do something for me, whatever it is. I would chase terrible relationship after terrible relationship. And when you first wake up into this freedom beyond mind, it could be a little shocking because it's like, oh my Lord, I've been a lunatic. I have been a lunatic. And I have a body, I have a human mind. I have a lunatic within me, a lunatic. I remember when I was a young kid, a young hippie, you know, like 13, 14 years old. And is that some Pink Floyd song? It's like Dark Side of the Moon. And there's this like lunatic laughter. And he's, you know, the lyrics said something about a lunatic. I can't remember. But I remember just thinking, like just having a moment of insight, like, I am a lunatic. Like me, this consciousness, this human mind of Craig is crazy. Like the thoughts I am are crazy. You know, someone emailed me last week, and I think this is the question last week during Satsang. They had this question, you know, they said they had all these disturbing sexual desire thoughts. And it's like, yeah, like we have an animal nature. We have an animal nature, and an animal nature that could be crazy pornographic, just so graphic and in such ways. And it can be so desirous, and it can be so attached, it can be so clingy. It can be so clingy. We can come up with thoughts like, I need a Mercedes Benz to complete myself. I need that. I need this car. I need this car. I need a big house. I need my mother to love me. You know, like mother, she does love us, but she's confused, you know, and she's not going to change. She's not going to love us exactly the way we want her to love us. And as we wake up, we realize, oh my God, I've been doing this thing where I've been holding my breath underwater. And it's created all this pressure, and I'm going to drown. I'm going to drown. I'm going to drown in my own insanity. And so many of us, you know, we walk into the world of spirituality and we think, oh, if I go to the right teacher, if I go to the right retreat, if I go to the right satsang, whatever it is, the right church, the right religion, then that thing will save me. That thing will fundamentally change who I am. It'll straighten me out. It'll do the work. And in one sense, you know, from a big non-dual sense, that's really true. Like it's, you know, it's love that changes us. It's God that changes us. It's the truth that changes us. But from another perspective, you know, like that old saying in the Bible, saying, God helps those who help themselves. Like we have to take responsibility if we want to be awake in an abiding way. We have to choose the truth. We have to choose the truth. And sometimes the truth, like often the truth is, I need to love myself more fully and completely. I need to be kind to that little girl, that little guy inside. I need to be kind to the child within me. I need to love what's here. I can't just always expect someone else to do it for me. I can't. And this beautiful thing happens as you choose to love you, as you choose to fully be with you, as you choose to set a boundary around the insanity of your own mind and say, no, I'm not going to be crazy because I'm not crazy. I am the truth. I am the clarity. I am the light. And as you make that choice, you become the truth. You become the thing. You become the freedom. But as long as we allow our mind, you know, like so many of us, we let our ego get away with so much under the guise of, I'm triggered, I'm triggered, I'm triggered. I'm so triggered that I'm just going to hate you. I'm going to sabotage our relationship. I will never forgive you. I'm just going to hold on to hatred, or I'm going to hold on to fear because you did something that hurt me. And it may be true that somebody hurt us. They hurt our feelings. They hurt our psyche. They said something that was not politically correct or whatever it is. That happens. And those things, in a human way, those things do hurt. You know, I have a wife and a little girl. And sometimes when I reflect on the day, I'm like, my God, like they just hurting my feelings all day long. But like if I listen to my feelings and allow my feelings to define me, there'd be times when I would hate these people. And the truth is, I don't hate them. I love them. I love them. I love them. And you know, I'm just dealing with a 9-year-old sometimes who's emotional or moody, and I don't need to hate her. I don't need to be offended. I don't need to be triggered. I don't need to be hurt. I just acknowledge, like, oh, she's a little girl. She's confused. She's figuring herself out. Don't take it personally. Don't take it personally. And this happens all the time as we interact with the world. And maybe we're resting in being, resting as this immense presence, resting as love. And someone comes up to you and they just say something awful. And it's just like, are we going to really play this thing out? I'm triggered, I'm triggered, I'm triggered, I'm triggered, I'm triggered. And the ego's like, I need to hate them for a period of time. It's like, and as long as we stay in that state, it's like we made this choice, the choice to let go of this loving, open-hearted space of being. So basically, we're letting go of the truth. Because all of us, in our truth, we are these loving, open-hearted beings. And we let go of the truth and we say, God damn it. What they said was not right and it wasn't fair. I need to be angry. I want to be angry. Of course, we don't really say this, but this is what our unconsciousness does. It just takes us into a world of like I'll ask you, do any of you punish people? Like, I'm going to give them the silent treatment. I'm going to not talk to them. I'm going to punish them. I'm going to withhold love from them. Because they hurt my feelings. Because they voted for Trump. Because they voted for Biden. Because they, did something. They did something. I had a funny one. My oldest daughter, for some reason, she absolutely hates UFOs and aliens. And let me tell you something. She has a father who absolutely loves UFOs and aliens. Just like, I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I've already seen some. I saw 3 ships, once, and it was incredible. I won't get into it too much, but she would hate it whenever I talked about UFOs and aliens. She'd hate it so much. And at one point in her teenage years, she did this beautiful thing. She said, if my dad talks about aliens one more time, I'm not going to talk to him for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks. And so she was just stuck in some place of resistance. I think she's afraid of aliens coming and abducting her or something. I don't know what it is. She won't talk to me about it, but I think she's afraid. I think when I speak about it, it brings up a fear. And so to counteract this fear, she's like, I'm going to punish him. I'm going to punish him. anytime he gets excited about aliens, I'm wanting to stop talking to him. And I think there was one time when she went like a whole month. And I was always like, sweetie, like, what is going on? Like, what's the problem? Why aren't you talking to daddy? And she'd just walk out of the room. I'd be like, dang, a whole month trying to make me pay. And like, these are the games that human beings do. I mean, in one sense, it's hilarious. In one sense, it's hilarious. And in another sense, it's just so much suffering. So much suffering. You know, like think about how many families just here in the United States don't talk to each other because someone voted for Mr. Trump or Mr. Biden. And it's just like, are we really going to be this petty? Like, are we really going to do that? Are we really going to be this way? Or are we going to live from a space of love? And in order to live from a space of love, we have to choose love. First and foremost, we have to value it more so than we value our feelings, our mask, our egoic identity. And of course, like I always have to say this, if someone truly is mean and truly violent and hurtful, it's like, yeah, make a boundary, walk away, call the police, like do what you need to do, like do what you need to do to get out of there. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about all the little ways that we leave our heart because our egoic identity is telling us you need to be scared, you need to shut down, you need to punish them. It's like we really have to look at, what do I value? Do I value love first and foremost? Do I value truth? Or do I value the story in my mind that you hurt me? Now, keep in mind, like sometimes when we value the truth, it doesn't necessarily mean we just go out and just forgive every single person. Sometimes when we value the truth, it means we speak up. We say, hey, knock it off. Quit hurting me. Quit hurting me. Like some of us, we are attached to being non-confrontational. Like that was my big thing. Like the first 20 years of my life is I was attached to being a people pleaser. I was attached to being non-confrontational. I would avoid conflict at all costs. And so the truth, when it started to wake up in me, it actually brought me into a lot of conflict. It's like, hey, you need to get in the ring. You need to get in the octagon. You need to speak up. You need to speak up. You need to speak up for the sake of truth. Because when we're really in truth, all parties grow. Like when we're speaking the truth, when we're sharing the truth, even if it's a confrontational way, all parties grow. When we speak the truth from ego, all parties do not grow. All parties just defend. They just defend and attack, and we just get in that dance of fight or flight. Fight, fight, fight. Run, 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 whatever it is. And so this core teaching is this recognition that what I am is a divine being. At the beginning of the day, the middle of the day, the end of the day, I am a divine being. And because I'm a divine being, I'm choosing to stay empowered. From a place of conscious, awake awareness, I'm choosing how to be, how to respond. Instead of unconsciously allowing our ego to be like a ping pong ball. You hit me, I hit you back. You hurt me, I hurt you. That's unconscious. Oftentimes the ego tricks us into thinking like I'm making the choice, but that's not a choice. That's a sleepy, lazy way of being. Our ego just gives us the reaction. Whereas when we are in the truth, most of us are a little bit slower, sometimes a lot slower when we first step in the truth. We have to reflect a little bit. Okay, this person just hurt me. Do I need to hurt them back? Do I need to guard and defend? Or can I just let the hurt just move through me? And, you know, I'll be honest here, like a lot of times I do that with my girls is to just beat me up in all these different ways. I'll go in the other room and I'll just be like, oh, I just feel the hurt of it. And then it empties out and it's gone. It's gone. I don't walk back in the room and be like, you hurt me. This isn't fair. You guys always pick on me. I walk back in the room and there's just this sense of, it's all right. It's all right. They're just being where they're at. They're just being where they're at. It really has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. I get to stay open and free. And so again, nowhere in here am I teaching that if we live in a state of freedom, that we feel good all the time. When we live in a state of freedom, we feel everything all the time. And the beautiful thing about feeling everything, about being everything, like when you are the hugeness of the sky, the little things in life, they don't bother you nearly as much. You know, if someone offends your egoic identity, it doesn't bother you as much when you are the hugeness of existence. It doesn't bother you as much. And there's a freedom in that. When you value your highest nature, your lower nature, you know, it can still do its dance, but it doesn't move you. It doesn't have the steering wheel. And if, for a moment, it does take the steering wheel, and we begin again, we wake up, we realize, oh, I can take that wheel back. Like I could take that wheel back. I can. I can take it back. Like today was the first day of the season where, you know, I got my snow blower out and was, you know, doing some snow blowing. But, you know, there's this thing with the first day of the season with a snow blower or a lawnmower or a motorcycle, you know, anything with a gasoline engine. And if you let that engine sit for six months, 9 months, 10 months, 11 months, and you're not like constantly running that engine, it gets all gummed up. And so, you know, I knew it. Like I knew it's going to be a little fight. It's going to be a little fight getting that snow blower going. And, you know, the little voice in me throughout the summer was kind of telling me, like, run some gas in it and, you know, clean out the carburetor, do all these things like when it's nice and warm. And, I was like, no, I'll do it tomorrow, manana, I'll do it manana. And it just, manana never came until today. It's freezing cold. We have a foot of snow and, it's just like a blizzard. And like working, I always tell the story because it happens every year, out there working on a small engine. And you got your gloves on, but you're dealing with gas. You got to take the gloves off, and you're working with nuts and bolts, and like you need your fingertips to work. And it's so hard to work in gloves. And so, I'm out there getting gas all over myself, freezing. My fingers aren't working. And I just felt like the tension started to creep up, like in my body, in that kind of reptilian brain, like this contraction. And then it's like, okay, can I take a deep breath? Can I relax? Can I open to the hugeness of the sky? Like if this fails, like if I don't get this thing going, it's okay. It's okay. It's absolutely okay. But when we're in our reptilian mind, like when that reptilian mind is starting to kind of take over, you can even like feel it in your blood. You can start to feel like these different hormones flood your bloodstream as they start to take over. They come with these thoughts like, I have to get this thing working. It's like, or what? Like, or what? Like, what's the worst case here? I'm going to just shovel by hand. Like, and if my shovel breaks, which, I have like 3 broken shovels right now just because we've had so much snow, and it's going to be okay. Like, what's the worst case? There'll be a lot of snow. That's the worst case. There'll be a lot of snow. And, I'll be okay. Life will be okay. The world will be okay. But our ego, it's always unconsciously telling us a story that it's not going to be okay. But the truth is, it is okay. Okayness is what life is. Okayness is what life is. But it's funny, we have a mind that's literally hardwired to look around in any given environment and say, it's not okay. This isn't okay. You're not okay. Now, I've had this thought every now and then. It's like a territorial thought, around people parking in certain places. I came up to my house the other day and someone parked in my spot. And I was like, who is that? What are they doing? Why don't they park in front of their house? And as I got closer, I was just like, why am I having these crazy thoughts? Like, why am I having these crazy thoughts? It's just like, I live in a street, there's lots of places to park. There's plenty. I don't live in New York City. There's plenty of places to park. But I like this one spot by a tree because it shades my car. And it's just, someone parked in my spot. And as I got closer to the car, I realized, oh, that's my friend Steve's car. It's like, that's my friend Steve's car. Like, that's Steve's car. And I was like, we have this human mind, and it's so silly. It's so silly. And the more awake we are, the more we smile at these silly thoughts. And whether it's territorial thoughts, whether it's I need to make them pay thoughts, whether it's desirous thoughts, whether it's I need a drink right now, thoughts like that was like my dad's thought. My poor father, he just lived with us. He was like, had so much pressure in his consciousness, and his thoughts were just screaming like, I need a drink right now. I just need a drink. I just need a drink. It's like whatever the thoughts are, the more we wake up, we begin to see they're not our thoughts. They don't belong to us. They are simply human thoughts arising in a human mind. And I am that which sees, which witnesses the human mind. I am the one that gets to choose to follow this thought, to go with it. Or I can be the one who chooses to live in this vast space of awake awareness, this space of love, this space of patience, this space of kindness, this space of trust, this space of compassion, this space of fearlessness. I get to choose. I get to choose. I get to choose how to be in this world. And so much of our life, we're not taught this. We're taught you are what you think. We're taught we're hurt or we're broken, that we need to be ashamed, that we're guilty, that we're no good, that we're less than. We're taught all these distorted things. And the invitation this day is to really wake up and to see what you are, to be what you are, to fall in love with this beauty that you are. And as you wake up to this recognition that there's something really good here, when you look out at life, you see, oh yeah, there's something really good everywhere. Everywhere. There's something really good everywhere. And so anyways, see there's some questions here. So maybe we'll get to those. All right. Let's hear from Jagger. Hi, Jagger. Are you here?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, welcome.
So my energy just seems to be just like kind of everywhere in my head right now.
Yeah,
And it's really overwhelming. It's just like my thoughts are just like really sped up.
yeah,
And it's really hard to try to breathe like all
yeah.
day.
What do you feel in your heart right now?
I think I'm focusing on the energy in my spine and how just like everywhere it feels right now. And then the frustrations coming from just like this week, I did so much work to like make it, or help it go kind of center. And I
Mm-hmm.
felt really good. And then I challenged myself yesterday and I went to this like music hall and saw the band. And, I felt like old trauma and stuff coming up, just like a lot of people and just like getting disoriented. And instead of like running from it, I just like really stood
Yeah,
there. And then I started feeling all this shit. Like I was just going to fall to the ground.
yeah,
And, and then ever since, it's just been like everywhere. And it's
yeah,
just frustrating because I'm like trying to do the work. And then the work is like making it like I want to like engage with life. But it's like when I'm alone and by myself, that's when it's just fucking frustrating.
yeah. So Jagger, I want to ask you again. What do you feel in your heart right now?
I just feel cold. I feel
Yeah,
cold right now.
yeah, yeah. And can you see if you can open to that coldness? And if you allow that coldness, to communicate to you, like to speak, to share, like what do you see, or what do you notice in this coldness? What's this coldness about?
Just feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so I'm going to invite you to sit here and to open to the overwhelm. And see if you can allow this overwhelm to begin to flow, begin to empty, to begin to spread out. And that may bring up tears, it may bring up more pressure. And in one sense, I just want you to see if you can just let it come and be in this space. And maybe even visualize it not all staying in the body, but just kind of like moving, flowing into the spaciousness of this room. That there's room here for the feeling of overwhelm. And sometimes we try to control that, but I'm going to invite it. Like the feeling of overwhelm, often it feels like a dam that's just like getting ready to break, and to let that dam break.
I just feel like super defeated every single time. It's just like the
Yeah,
energy
yeah,
gets.
yeah. And so I want you to be okay with being defeated, the feeling of defeat. And just allow that feeling of defeat. Allow it to wash over you. And we don't need to hold on to it. We don't need to identify with it, but just notice like there's a big feeling of overwhelm, big feeling of defeat, all kinds of intense thoughts. And noticing that this space, you just let that come, Jack. Notice that this space is big enough for all of it. Sometimes our ego kind of holds it all in the body. And I want you to just like let it flow, let it empty, let it grieve. And so through grieving, it's this doorway of just letting go, letting it empty, 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 empty. Yeah, let it come. Let it come. Let it come. It's just a lot of feeling. Human beings, like we are feeling creatures. We are so much feeling. Yeah. You let it come. You let it rage. You let it be wild. You let it be sad. You let it break. You let it break. You let it be wild. Let yourself be a wild, those wild forest yogis. And all this energy is just like flowing and heaving and dancing and being wild. Like some raging wild rapids. We let it flow. We let it break. We let it whine. We let it moan. We sing our song of grief. We sing our song of grief. Just let it go. Just let it go. We let it come. And we can smile and cry, or just laugh, or we can do it all. Just letting it flow. Letting it flow. And noticing, as you spoke about strength, that there's a quiet strength here. Not a strength that's holding it all together, but a strength that's just allowing these waves to wash over us, to empty out of us, to flow, and that we're okay. That we're okay. We're okay. I'm so okay that I can fully grieve all of what's here. I'm so okay. I can allow all of what's here to come unhinged. And at the same time, I'm realizing, oh, I'm not unhinged. I'm okay. I'm just grieving. I'm just letting go of some of this weight that I've carried for far too long. Yeah. Yeah. So we let it flow. We let it flow. And we notice that we're okay. We're okay. We're okay. I took my little girl sledding today. And well, all week she's had this little snow pile at our house. And I've got a flat yard, so I don't have a hill. But she built a snow pile that's like, maybe 5 feet wide at its base and like, a foot at the top. And it's maybe 4 feet tall. If you can picture that, it's like this little pyramid. And she's got this long, flat, rigid sled. And she keeps like trying to put the sled at the top of this this little snow hill that she's made. And I'm like, sweetie, if you do that, like you're gonna break the sled. Like the sled's gonna be just like a pencil, it's just gonna break in half. And the sled it cracked, and I was like, it's like Daddy told you it's gonna break. And but I was like, hey, I'll take you to a new hill today, like a real hill that you go sledding on. So we took this broken sled. It's had a little crack in it, and I was like, okay, we'll take you sledding. And we went to the big hill, and we went sledding, up and down that hill maybe 10 times before that sled just broke right in half. And it broke in half, and she had a big cry. Big cry, screaming, ah. And then 8 minutes later, it's just like, no big deal. No big deal. And as human beings, we're wired to let emotions flow. We're not wired to carry emotions around for a decade. We're not wired to do that. We're wired to grieve in the moment. Like that's how our brain is designed. So if we could just grieve, then stuff doesn't build up. It doesn't become pressurized. It doesn't, get so. And when grief builds up, like our thoughts go crazy. But after we fully grieve, often our mind just goes silent. It goes blank. It goes blank. It's empty. And in the emptiness, we recognize, oh, I am okay. It is okay. I am okay. It is okay. And so, Jagger, good to be with you today, my friend. You keep opening to what's here. Just open and you let it flow. You let it empty. You let it burn itself out. And all the while, I want you to simultaneously recognize, and there's something here that's okay. My mind's screaming that it's overwhelmed. But I think there's something here that's not overwhelmed. I think there's something here that is okay. And I'm so okay, I can go through this experience of overwhelm and let the overwhelm empty itself out. And then it becomes really easy just to recognize, oh yeah, I'm totally okay. I am okayness itself. Yeah, beautiful work, my friend. Good to be with you, Jagger. Yeah. Okay. Let's hear from Terry.
Hi.
Hi, Terry. Good to see you.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to share something that happened a couple weeks ago. This kind of thing seems to be happening lately. Sometimes it's because I I ask for it, but in this case, my husband, he called me on a stupid behavior that I do, very selfish. I I I don't listen and I don't consider, and he called me on it. He's, look at this. You've got this junk on this side of the table. You haven't cleaned it for like 2 years. And I'm like, uh-huh. Uh, just not wanting to give him the time of day. He called me on it. And he said, look at you. You're like not listening to me. You're being selfish and you're not considering the other people who live here. And at that moment, I just like looked at him and I said, okay, listen. And he went off, he like lectures. Okay. So I listened to his lecture for like 10 minutes and listened to everything he said. And I questioned myself and I just turned inward and looked, and suddenly I saw like how I had done this all through my life, all the people I've done it with, like not just ignoring and not looking, and just out of the selfishness, it was just like, whoo. And so the rest of that day, the whole day was just like energy coming up from my solar plexus of this thing, and just breathing and then letting this stuff come up. And then on top of that, there was this other mechanism that stepped in right away. As soon as I was like looking at that, judgment and shaming stepped in, and it was like it wanted me to look away.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to look away. I wanted to see this.
Good.
Right? And it was so hard. And so I just said, okay, you just gotta you're gonna survive this. So you just gotta sit with the shame too, and all that, and forgive yourself because you're just a human being. And I just, it took hours and hours. By the evening, it started finally dissipating.
Yeah.
The whole day, just like sitting there and doing whatever I had to do during the day, and having this stuff come up. And just like right now, speaking is making me so nervous, and I feel this energy.
Terry, it's a beautiful, it's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful teaching. Yeah. And that's the thing. The way the Buddha spoke about this was he'd say like it's self-liberating. Like when you start to see the ego for what it is, when you're willing to see, when you're willing to listen, these things self-liberate. They self-liberate. And I love it because you stayed with it. You made the choice. I'm going to stay with this. I'm going to see what's here. And as we see what's here, the thing begins to burn up. Begins to burn up. And, some of these things, like they're little small things. And the ego says, it's just a small thing, so I don't need to worry about it. But through the willingness to look and to see and to stay with it, this thing that was once small, we realize, oh my God, it's so big. It's like this big chunk of my egoic identity. It had all this energy in it, and all the energy's frozen. But as you open to it, in a sense, like you get to harvest that energy. You get to be that energy. That energy is you. It's no longer frozen. And there's all this energy that flows through the body when you see the truth, when you choose the truth. And it's no longer stuck in some unconscious thing. And so it's so beautiful. So beautiful.
It was very, very hard. I mean, I was in hell. I felt horrible.
Yeah, but come on now, the gift of it.
But at the
gift of
same
it, so worth
time,
it.
there was a voice that was saying, this is actually a good thing. This is
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah.
But I was like, I don't
This
think
is
it's
exciting. Yeah,
horrible.
yeah, 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 yeah. So beautiful. Thank you for sharing, Terry.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Yeah, yeah. And this is the truth. Like sometimes it's so hard. Sure. But so exciting. It's so exciting. And it's one of those things like, what do we value? Do we value the truth? And when you open to the truth, it doesn't matter if it's hard or it's easy. We value the truth. We value the truth. Yeah. And the truth is exciting. Like when we really step into it, the truth feels thrilling. It feels alive. It feels, in a sense, like just like with Jagger a moment ago, it feels a little bit wild. Sometimes the truth is, I just need to grieve. I need to grieve. I need to grieve. I need to let this wildness that I've been holding in me, I need to let it flow. I need to let it empty. And some of us, we are, what's it called? Self-conscious. We're self-conscious, or we're guilt and shame people. So we think I need to keep all this in, not let anyone see it. But most of us, like, we'll do this work, from like the privacy of our own home or our own room or a meditation cushion. It's okay. And if someone does see it, it's okay. The big thing is just we want to let it flow. We want to let it empty. Because when we hide it from the world, we also hide it from ourselves. And when we hide something from ourselves, we lose energy, a tremendous amount of our psychic energy. We lose. And a lot of folks who have fatigue and have like chronic fatigue syndrome or have depression and these types of things, there's all this energy that's being lost because there's big chunks of ourselves that we've hidden from ourselves. We're like, I can't go there. I can't feel that. I'm going to ignore it, ignore it, ignore it. And sometimes with depression, is we've ignored it so much, there's just layers and layers of ignoring on top of each other. And we don't even know what's down there anymore. Like we don't know what's in that basement. But we free ourselves through the willingness to feel, the willingness to experience, the willingness to honor what's here. And through the honoring, it begins to self-liberate. Yeah, so beautiful. Okay, let's hear from Aaron.
Hey.
Hey, Aaron, good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Happy New Year. Hi, everyone. Okay, so first I just want to say that when I was like 14, I lied to a group of my friends that my brothers had tied me up and poured alcohol down my throat just because I wanted to be cool and accepted. And that has been on my mind like crazy. I had
This
a
was
dream.
your big lie that you said my brother
Oh,
tied me up and got me
both
drunk?
of my brothers. That's right. They tied me up. They got me drunk on a big snowstorm, in a big snowstorm.
But it's not true at all.
It wasn't true. I mean, I did drink and use substances with my brothers at quite a young age. So
They didn't
it's not,
force you to
but
do
they
it.
didn't tie me up. They didn't tie me up. It wasn't forced. I just needed to say that in front of a group
Okay,
of people.
all right.
It's just been nagging at me. I was
Yeah.
like, but now my question.
Well, no, you got to do 10 Hail Marys. So you have to do 10 Hail Marys, 10 Hail Marys.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, what's the question? Yeah.
The question is around approaching. So I'm noticing that as things pick up for me a little bit, and this has been true throughout my process, is that I will engage addictions of various kinds to slow it down, to kind of like deaden the energy.
Mm-hmm.
It's always quite painful on the back end.
You mean after you've deadened the energy?
Yeah, right. For any number of reasons, coming out of the addiction cycles, and then
Yeah.
the energy itself needing to
Yeah.
kind of come back into
Yeah.
alignment.
So real quick, why do we need to deaden the energy?
Yeah, great question. I think I know that parts of me begin to feel very overwhelmed by what's happening, which is part of the question that I have to ask, I recognize that in my process, I'm moving into a place where what's being invited is like, oh, I'm moving into places that are bigger than my mind can own as myself. It's like, oh, I'm really expanding beyond the identity. And it's like, oh, this is what I've been working towards. And
That's
it's
what
like,
I want.
oh no, I'm terrified. That's cool. Well, I've, come up to this point, get a gold star, get my merit badge. I'm gonna go back now. But there's no way to do that, obviously. It's like
Yeah.
being what do they call it, the head of the head in the tiger's mouth. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
here. Okay,
Yeah.
chomp. And so I think I'm just looking for some encouragement around that, some support, I was thinking about asking this question, I think last night, and you're kind of internalized in my consciousness at this point. I heard you telling me some things. I heard you talking about the gambler that you like to do in regards to calling the ego on it and stepping into it.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm curious as to what comes forward to you in you right now around it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the part of you is a part of you basically that's afraid of being overwhelmed
Yeah, and dying.
and dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, isn't that what you want?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And if we want that, uh, can we choose that?
Yes.
Can we go all the way with it? Can we jump into the lion's mouth and see what happens?
Totally. Right.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah.
We have to be kind of crazy to want this. Now, like we can play the reason game. I don't know if it helps you any, but you see that people who are quote unquote enlightened, they're not dead.
Sure.
Like they didn't die. Something died, but basically it's the death of fear, the death of division, the death of like the negotiator, like that negotiator who goes up, Aaron, and is like, okay, I want to jump in, but then we'll jump out.
Mm.
And we'll jump in, get my badge, and then go back.
Totally.
And say, like, can we not go back? Like, do you want to go back? Like, what do you want?
Right.
If you want to go back, you can go back, but nothing's going to change. And if we want a new life, like if we really want a new life, let's have a new life. Let's walk all the way through the door and let's keep walking. And so if there's parts of you that are screaming, I don't want to do that. Like we could say, oh, those are false and those are untrue and you got to choose. And I already just told you that you got to choose. But, also I like to have compassion for those parts of me, those parts of the human that are scared. And I treat them like I treat any good child. I see you. I love you. It's okay. Let me hold you. Like, how about I hold you and we jump into the lion's mouth and we see. We see if God's going to kill us or if God's going to liberate us. And so, this is, in a sense, I'm speaking about faith and trust.
Right.
Faith and trust. But
Yeah.
we can also invite love and compassion to the parts of us that are really scared. And letting them know, like, hey, it's okay. I'm here with you. And anything good in you, anything innate, like that doesn't have to die. It's just the stuff in us that's false. I want to say bullshit, but that may be too harsh. But the stuff that's false, the stuff that thinks we need to negotiate when we don't need to negotiate. It can be a tremendously loving thing to see that this essence that you are, it doesn't need to negotiate. It doesn't need to go back. In fact, to go back is to throw it into prison. You want out of prison. Sometimes we get used to prison. We're like, I like these walls. I like them. They feel comfortable. Like they feel comfortable. I think I need them. But
That's fair.
In a sense, like the truth wants to give you a greater room, a greater space, not a confined space, a greater space, a limitless space. And it won't always be a comfortable space, but it will be amazing. And, like we can talk to the parts of ourselves, say, hey, like, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Just come along. It's okay. We can talk sweet. We can talk kindly. We can talk firmly. We can get out a non-dual sword and do all that kind of thing.
Sure.
But I'm a fan of love. I'm a fan of love. And I found the quickest way to truly opening is through loving all the parts of the self. Not pushing, not judging, not attacking, or not forcing, not using a crowbar. But gently embracing them. As we walk through the door in a loving way. And see, it's not a lion that we're walking into. We're walking into heaven. In order to walk into heaven, we have to let go of the things that don't work in heaven.
Yeah. I feel like you spoke pretty directly to what I'm experiencing, and I think at bottom there is the fear of expiring, of dying, but I think there's also just like, I don't really, in this place, I don't trust spirit. I don't trust the divine.
Yeah.
But just asking myself, like, well, who doesn't trust?
Yeah.
Right? It's just helpful to hold that place as opposed to be habitually identified there, because I think that's true of my consciousness up until this point. So I'm kind of reflexively identified. These are just really low places in the centers, which is new for me, that they're open enough to actually be emptying out in the way that they are. And so there's a lot of habitual identification here.
Yeah, and some of that just takes, it takes some time, but there's these parts of ourselves, we really want to let it know, like, hey, we're not here to kill you.
Right.
We're going to let you out so you can go play.
Right.
So you can go play. So you can go play. If people talk way too much about annihilation and ego death, and it's like, like with ego death, what happens is your innocence gets to go play. Your innocence is no longer constrained. My ego telling it is you're bad, you're wrong, you're no good, you have to be better, you have to, whatever the story is.
Right.
It's no, you get to go play. You get to go be you.
Right.
Fully. Fully.
Mm.
Fully. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it is.
You get to be you fully. No death. It's like the Christian terms, like it's new life. I am born again in new life.
Right.
New life. No death. The thing that dies are things that you don't want anyways. It's like none of us, miss, being a middle school kid. I was being in middle school, being picked on and being self-conscious, worried about our hair and all that kind of it's like,
Sure.
that's the thing that dies. Like the worry about what other people are thinking about us. That's the thing that dies.
Right.
It's everything good we keep. And everything good just expands. So innocence, the innocence that we are, gets to play eternally. Unmolested by our egoic nature that's always telling it you're bad, you're wrong, you can't, you shouldn't, you need to be different. That's the thing that dies, is the chains. The chains. And so anyways, imagining a life with no chains.
Right.
With no chains. And when we start to see it in this way, it's like, oh, and Aaron, like you grew up Christian, so this is like, like there's all these songs, like when you go to church, like what was one of the songs that always resonated with me, like lift you up on eagle's wings, or however that song goes. Just this feeling of just soaring. The soul is just soaring because it's not weighed down by a voice in our head that says you got to fit in a box. And it's like, no, there's no box. I got wings. I got wings. I got wings now. There's no box. No box. I don't want to be in a box.
Oh.
I don't want to be in a box. And sometimes, like if we really appeal like to the true parts of us, our true desires, we start to kind of ride these waves of openness. And it's like, oh my God, this feels incredible.
Right.
No box, no chains.
Right.
And so anyways, good to be with you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I think we did a pretty good job. We have this retreat coming up. I told everyone about that in the beginning. I hope you can come. I'm still working on kind of putting together like a new network where we can kind of come together and have more connection with each other. I'm working on that. I'm working on creating an inquiry group. And on this next retreat, we'll be doing, have some more engagement with each other through the inquiry practice. So we'll play around a little bit with that. And yeah, I think that's everything. I'm trying to put everything out in a newsletter. For those of you who don't know, I do have a newsletter and you can sign up on the website. All right. Good night, everyone. So good to be with you. God is great. Love us all. Good night.